bag. Got me losing count of these bags. I've been moving too fast.
Here we are. It is Keith Irizarry with you. Moose and Keith. We'll get Moose in just a second. And this is Moose's song. Dude, what a disappointment. We were going to have Moose on here. I think he was going to be singing the song. It's Lil Durk. It's J. Cole. Man, we have a lot to talk about over the next 2 hours. The guest list, and, I don't normally do this, but I'm going to give you the guest list anyway because we got some really good guests coming up. Howard Bender, we know from Fantasy Alarm, does a lot of stuff here. Better Sports Network. He'll join us at 10:30, break down some fantasy baseball stuff going on, help you with some betting baseball as well. I got some plays for you. I was doing my Better's Eye prep this morning also, so I'm all set with that. So he'll join us at 10:30. David Barnett, Tour Junkies. It was a wild U.S. Open last week. We got another Tournament Travelers Championship coming up, tomorrow, the next day? Today's Tuesday? Yeah. Thursday morning. So we'll talk to Dave Barnett from Tour Junkies, and then our guy, Brian Geltzeiler, help us kind of make heads and tails of what we've seen so far in the NBA offseason. NBA draft is on Thursday. And I don't know how you guys all feel about this, and good morning, everybody. So I grew up an NBA draft nerd. Okay, this was like one of those things where when I was in my teens, I would try to make sure that I could be there to watch the draft. I was not in person, but watch it on TV, always watch it with my father. And then in my early 20s, like when I was working, I would try to go out of my way to not be working. What's up, Moose?
Good morning.
Good morning. I was just saying, I don't know about you if you're a draft nerd, and you did a lot of NFL draft coverage right here for Better Sports Network. You guys nailed it. With the NBA draft, I grew up kind of an NBA draft nerd. Like I was the guy that was studying, trying to figure out who these second round studs could be. Things get in the way now. I'm not as much into it like that I was, but I used to take off from work on Thursdays and make sure that I was home to watch the entire NBA draft. I'm excited about this one because we know that Victor is going to go number 1, but number 2, number 3, we have no idea. And we also now, with all the Dame Lillard rumors running around, we have no idea who's going to be taking any of those draft picks, like what teams are going to be drafting. I'm excited about it, but good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Keith. How you doing, buddy?
All good, man. All good.
Yeah, I'm excited about the NBA draft on Thursday night. I'm with you. I can't wait to see exactly what Wembanyama is like next year in the NBA, given the fact of how much we've heard about him. And yeah, now with all the rumors about Portland, if they select 3rd overall, that Dame Lillard wants out. But if they trade the 3rd overall pick, potentially maybe to New Orleans, and there were reports yesterday that the Pelicans, that Portland's more interested in Zion Williamson than they would be a Brandon Ingram from New Orleans. I find it fascinating. I can't wait. NBA draft, it's amazing when you look at the draft process and how inundated we get with the National Football League, not so much Major League Baseball, not so much the National Hockey League, but the NBA, the NBA finals end, and basically a week and a half later, we're having the NBA draft, and then free agency gets going in early July, and away we go.
Yeah, you brought up MLB. We got the MLB draft combine going on right now. I know a bunch of the MLB network people are in Arizona for that. I always found it interesting, the MLB draft, because it happens while the baseball season is going on. Like clearly you can't do it at a different time because you got the College World Series going on. But yeah, I think it takes some of the luster away from that. The NBA too, you're right. Because the NBA Finals, had it gone 7 games, would have ended a week ago instead of, 11 days ago, or whatever it is. So you'd really legitimately have 1 week to go, deep breath.
Yeah.
LeBron and Draymond are on vacation together in France. We can talk about that. And now let's do a draft.
No, I know it get going really quick, which I love. I love the fact that, we get right into it, and we're not, there's not this over analysis. Plus it's only 2 rounds. You're not looking at 7 rounds as compared to the National Football League. And when you're looking at some of the other drafts that are out there, and, we've seen a lot of these guys play, especially when you're looking at college basketball, not necessarily so much when you're looking at the European players outside of Wembanyama, who people have been following for the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah, it's interesting. The NBA, we talked about last week when we were on the airways on Thursday about Bradley Beal. Here we wake up and we're sitting here on this Tuesday doing a show on Better Sports Network, Keith, and Bradley Beal is a member of the Phoenix Suns, as he's going to be traded there, and Chris Paul is going to Washington, and now you're going to have the trio of Beal and Booker and Durant out there in Phoenix to try and bring that city and bring that program an NBA championship.
Am I wrong to sit here and feel like a skeptic that it's going to work?
No, why don't you think it's going to work though?
Because I feel like I've seen this before with Kevin Durant. Oh, wait, I have. I've seen it happen a few times. Now, with the Warriors, it worked, but he was going into a culture that was already built, right? The Brooklyn debacle. Like, I saw Durant with superstars in Oklahoma City, and yes, they got to one NBA Finals and lost to LeBron and the Cavaliers, but that didn't necessarily work. There's only one basketball. And I know it's an old cliche, and I know that it's, sometimes almost overused, but Devin Booker wants to be the man in Phoenix. And I mean, and Kevin Durant was even saying all the right things last year, saying this is Booker's team. Now Beal's going to come in as a 30-year-old guy that has been a multi-time All-Star, has made oodles of money routinely. I mean, he just scores 25 points in his sleep. On paper, yes, they should be the most dominant foursome in all of basketball, assuming DeAndre Ayton is still there, right? On paper. And yeah. I know Campaign is on their roster, and I think that there was one other guy, I can't remember his name right now, that's signed on their roster. There is zero depth on that team. There hasn't been a lot of proof that, honestly, any of the three can stay on the court all the time. They've all battled injuries over the years. Durant mostly. Beal was injured a bunch last year, and even Devin Booker has missed time as well. I want it to work. I think it's fun. I think if I'm playing fantasy basketball, I'm loving it. And I'm starting to feel like I'm watching the NBA and it's fantasy basketball sometimes.
Yeah, I think, listen, I think I think it can work because I think the emphasis on the three-point shot now, I've got Booker and Beal, and obviously you've got Kevin Durant. I need somebody that's going to facilitate that offense and run that offense in order to be able to get everyone the basketball. But, I think for Phoenix, it's more a case of addition by subtraction. I mean, Chris Paul was no longer the player that he was 5 or 6 years ago. They were thinking about getting rid of him, cutting him, whatever it might be. They end up trading him and working out a deal and giving up some, draft pick compensation, but take on a contract that isn't all that great, where Beal signed that 5-year, $251 million extension last summer. But they had a player that's, when healthy, one of the better shooters in the NBA. That is what Bradley Beal is. Is he a great defender? He is not. I'm not going to tell you that he is, but if Phoenix wants to, that now you potentially can have a scenario where, all three are on the court at the same time, but when one of them is getting rest, you still have the other two back on the court. So you could work it that way to where you do not take all that big of a hit. And I get rid of a guy that I've got to be honest with you, I really had little to no use for in Chris Paul.
I want to jump back in for 1 second and let you go. I do want to clarify. It was a deal I would have done, by the way, if I'm Phoenix. Like, they got better. I'm just not sure that they're better than the Nuggets or insert team or that or whatever. The Chris Paul thing, you know that he leads the NBA in assists per game over the last 2 years. So, I mean, he's not dead in the water. He just can't be a focal point of a team. He needs to just be a guy.
Well, and the other issue with Paul is he doesn't stay healthy.
Right.
In the playoffs. I mean, that's the other thing. And you're getting rid of a guy that has not had a history of getting lucky or being lucky in the postseason. His teams, and he often, meets a demise and fails. And sometimes that's just the way that it is over the course of an NBA career. And that's what you've seen here with Chris Paul. So, yeah, I get what he can do, but I'm paying him for doing more than just being a guy that can get others the basketball and be a distributor. I'm paying him to be a guy that can also generate offense and be able to knock down his own shot, all of those things. And we've seen I would say a deterioration of that over the course of the last 2 or 3 years when you're looking at Chris Paul. And I just, like we were talking about when we were betting futures in the NBA and looking at the Suns as a potential NBA champion, I said, well, you're counting on both Durant and Paul to have a healthy playoff run. And it didn't happen.
Yeah. NBA championship odds as we sit here right now at 10 o'clock in the morning, a little bit after 10 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, courtesy of FanDuel. Tell me if you agree, disagree, what you like, what you don't like. We got the Nuggets, shortest odds, plus 460. Celtics and Bucks are both at 5-1. The Phoenix Suns are plus 650. Those are all of the single-digit odds. How do you feel about those four?
Wait, run them past me again?
Nuggets,
Yeah.
Celtics, and Bucks are tied at 5-1, and then the Suns are at 650.
Yeah, I mean, I know the team I would probably be interested there would be the Celtics.
Yeah, 5-1. They yesterday announced that they have no desire to trade Jaylen Brown and more than likely just going to sign him to that Supermax.
Right. So they're right. So Jaylen Brown is still going to be up there in Beantown, and I think they're going to add to that coaching staff they have already, bringing Lee aboard from the Milwaukee Bucks to be the second in command behind Joe Mazzulla on the bench for the Boston Celtics. I do think that helps. That would be the team I'd be interested in. Listen, I don't think Denver's going anywhere. I mean, I think you could look at it and say, well, but I do think there might be a time where you might be able to get better odds than where the Denver Nuggets are right now, and it's very difficult to repeat as NBA champions.
Yeah, just a reminder, since I'm giving you the FanDuel odds there, also FanDuel up to $2,500 no sweat first bet. You can use the code fantasyalarm.com/FanDuel. Join FanDuel Sportsbook, deposit $10, place your first bet up to $2,500, and you get up to $2,500 in bonus bets back if you lose. I would say, to me, I guess the Suns, even after what I just said, would be the most intriguing one there, plus 650, just because it's the most bang for your buck. Let's go a little further than that, though. All right, so the Warriors are 13-1. The Sixers 14-1, Lakers 15, Miami Heat are 18-1. We're just going to go with the teens there. So you got the Warriors, Sixers, Lakers, Heat before we get into the 20s. What do you like there?
Warriors, Sixers, Lakers, Heat.
In that order is the odds, and it's all negligible. They're all within $1 of each other, basically.
I'd be interested in the Sixers.
So what are they going to do this season? All right. So I like that you brought that up. So because
because I think it's a positive. Nick Nurse taking over for Doc Rivers.
Okay.
I think Maxey could evolve to be the second best player on that team, even if Harden leaves in free agency. I think maybe culture-wise it'd be better if it's Maxey, Harris, and Embiid. Maybe they move on from Tobias Harris this offseason. They've got to switch some things up down there in Philadelphia, but I do think it's a positive coaching change when you look at the Philadelphia 76ers. That's one that I'd be intrigued by. Now, you might say, well, you pick Boston at 5-1, you're Philadelphia. I'm just pointing out teams I'd be intrigued in.
Well, we're doing tiers. So, no.
I mean,
I hope people are getting this at home. What we're doing is we're giving you the tiers.
If Kyrie Irving ends up in Los Angeles with the Lakers and you have Kyrie, LeBron, and Anthony Davis, I mean, I think that's intriguing because I do think LeBron's the one guy that can keep Kyrie in check in the NBA based on LeBron's drive. But I couldn't sit here on this June 20th until you have confidence in that right now because I have no idea.
Yeah, the futures market for this is always a difficult thing. That's why, I mean, it's playing a game, right? That's essentially what we're doing. So the Sixers at 14-1 don't do that much for me because if Harden is gone and Maxey is their number 2, I don't believe that's a championship team. Now, if Kendrick Perkins is correct in some of the things that he has heard about the Sixers, at least inquiring about Damian Lillard, well, it's a different conversation. And that 14-1 odd is going to look much different. The Lakers at 15-1. If 3 weeks from now, did I do the math right? July 6th is when that can happen. So 2.5 weeks from now. In 2.5 weeks, if Kyrie Irving is an LA Laker, and you're right, it's Davis, LeBron, and Kyrie, then we're having a different conversation. If there's anything to this LeBron and Draymond hanging out and going on vacation together thing, and then Draymond taking less money to go to LA, not going to happen, by the way. But if that were to happen, it's a different conversation. And then the last one I'll give you is the Miami Heat at 18-1. If Damian Lillard ends up there for Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and multiple first-round picks, and you end up with Butler, Dame, and Bam Adebayo, that team could get to a final.
Yeah, that could, especially when you're talking about heat culture and
Yeah.
Eric Spoelstra. They could. I mean, right now, do you think Lillard is a Portland Trailblazer?
Let's say July 6th, right? Because that's
Yeah,
the day that trades and everything can be
yeah,
finalized.
July 6th, right?
No, I think Damian Lillard's going to be on another team.
You do.
I do. I think that what's happening right now is, and we've all been in relationships, right, where we don't want to be the one that breaks up the relationship, right? I mean, I vividly remember a college relationship that I was in where, like, it was my first time that I was in a relationship, like dating a girl that I didn't know how to end the relationship. I hadn't broken up with anybody, so I was like trying to get her to break up with me so that it would just be easier. And suddenly it finally happened. And I think that's what Damian Lillard is trying to do right now. He's trying to say all the right things. He's trying to do all the right things. He wants all the Portland fan base to remember him fondly as the guy that spent over a decade of his life in Portland, gave his blood, sweat, and his tears. He wants the Trailblazers to set him free, right? That's what he wants. I'm not sure Portland's willing to do the whole breakup thing. In their minds, I think they want Dame to now be like, hey, so in all seriousness, if you're going to draft Scoot or Brandon or whoever you're going to draft at number 3, we're going to go the youth movement. Let's separate it. Send me somewhere else. That's what they want Dame to do. And I think it's a cat and mouse thing right now as to who's going to finally say, yes, we're broken up.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I do. I think Portland doesn't want to be perceived as the bad guy, and moving on from Lillard, they'd rather have Dame. But I don't even think Lillard would be perceived to be the bad guy, quote unquote, in the breakup. Because
I hope not.
I don't think so. I mean, me personally, I would not. I think it'd be foolish too. I think he's been extremely loyal to the Portland Trailblazers. I don't think they've done a great job of building around him in a myriad of different ways. He's an unbelievable player. Sometimes he's been way too loyal to a fault. And if he decides that he wants to look out for himself and go to a place to try and win an NBA championship, I would not fault Dame Lillard. I think he's given the Portland Trailblazers plenty of time.
Good morning, Sports Nut Nick wrote in our chat, Nuggets running it back. My question to you, Sports Nut, would be at plus 460, enough value for you to wager on the Nuggets to run it back? That would be my question, right? And I'm not trying to talk about people's finances, but Moose, to me, if I'm going to wager on the Nuggets to run it back at plus 460, I probably gotta do the Dave Sharapan bets, right? Where I'm putting a dime and I'm putting you gotta put about $10,000 on the Nuggets to run it back to feel like it's worth it.
Well, right. You had, we talked about
put $10 to make $46. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you right now, like that's what I mentioned. I think you can probably get a better price on Denver at some point during the regular season than you can right now. Like that's not, and I think right now I would need a lot more information than I do now that I have right now in order to place bets. So it's not a market that I'm running to go invest in at this stage unless you feel like there's going to be an unbelievable amount of value out there.
Lakers and Heat. I think those are the two, right?
Yeah, but it's really a speculative bet.
Yes.
I mean, because you're speculating that the Lakers are going to add somebody else, and you're speculating that Miami's going to add somebody else. Because I would not bet Miami if they're rolling back the same team, but with a healthy Tyler Hero. I would not be interested right now in betting the Miami Heat. If you tell me, okay, well, we're speculating the potential of Dame Lillard ending up in Miami, well, yeah. Then if I have a trio of Lillard, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo, yeah, then that's one. But it's more of speculation than anything else.
Because there are difference maker players on the free agent market or on the trade blocks. Like we keep coming back to Lillard. Technically, Draymond Green is available. Now, I think he ends up back in Golden State. I do. But the fact that he's represented by Clutch Sports, right? Rich Paul is his guy. Rich Paul is LeBron's guy. There's at least going to be that discussion. I don't think he ends up with the Lakers. But if he were in LA with the Lakers, if he were the third piece there, he's the defensive help on a guy like Jokic. Yeah, that's a different roster right now. Fred VanVleet is out there Now, he's a shorter guard of stature, but the guy has won a title already in Toronto. He's made a boatload of money. I know he wants to make more, but like there's sign and trade options out there for him. There are ways for him to land places. Kyrie is available. I mean, like there are so many names out there. This NBA offseason is going to be sick.
No, it's going to be great. And I'm interested to see, whether it be Lillard, Zion, Brandon Ingram, what the Knicks are going to go out there and try and do. The NBA draft is right around the corner. We've already seen one big domino fall, and that being Bradley Beal, being moved to the Phoenix Suns. And we opened up the conversation about that. I mean, it's interesting. And last we spoke, we haven't even gotten into, and we'll get into it momentarily, the 25-game suspension for Ja Morant. Which came down on Friday. We were on the airwaves Thursday. You mentioned you thought it was going to be Friday. I said it could be as late as Monday. You knew it was going to happen before the NBA draft. And there was Friday afternoon news coming out from the NBA and Adam Silver that Ja Morant was going to be suspended 25 games. We'll get into that momentarily. Here's Chris Paul. I believe he was on Good Morning America, basically detailing how he found out that he was traded by the Phoenix Suns.
Driving in this morning, and we got the ticker tape thing outside of our building.
What did it say?
And I see this potential blockbuster deal between you and Bradley Beal that may take you from Phoenix to Washington and vice versa. I was surprised. What are your first thoughts on that?
I was surprised too. I found out on the plane yesterday flying here for this. In this league, anything can happen, so you just figure out what's next.
You literally found out on the plane.
Absolutely.
Wow. What was your first reaction?
Don't push him any further. He's trying to be nice about it.
He is, right?
Yeah. What's happening?
What's happening?
There you go.
I mean, I feel like it's becoming a little bit more commonplace where a lot of this stuff gets broken on social media before the athletes even find out. Like, I don't think Chris Paul plays a game with the Washington Wizards. I think they're doing their best to try to figure out adding a third team in there, whether it's a Lakers, Clippers, whomever, or they'll buy him out. Like I can't imagine he plays for the Wizards. Could he?
No, I don't think he will. No, and maybe they do find that third team, or maybe they do buy him out. I think Chris Paul will be playing meaningful basketball someplace else.
Clippers, Lakers, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate the way that news moves and how quickly it moves in today's day and age to where you can't have, but there are some managers, some people that don't have that personal connection, personal touch. I mean, I can't tell you whether or not the Phoenix Suns did right or did wrong by Chris Paul. I know he's blaming, Isaiah Thomas played a role in his demise in Phoenix. Okay. I mean, I guess we saw Isaiah sit next to the owner during the course of the NBA playoffs on one or two occasions. We know Isaiah did have the year of James Dolan and the Knicks for a long, long time there, Keith. So do I look at that as being any kind of a big deal? No, I don't. And maybe Isaiah Thomas takes on some kind of a role with the Phoenix Suns. I know their owner Ishbia has mentioned that as a potential down the line here. When it comes down to it, the Suns are a better basketball team. Once that deal becomes official, they're a better basketball team with Bradley Beal than they were with Chris Paul. I mean, that's it. I mean, they're whether or not they could win an NBA title, whether or not you like the construction of the team, whether or not they have enough capital to be able to add other complementary pieces that are there going to be needed in order for them to accomplish that goal of winning the Larry O'Brien trophy. That's a different story. The question is, if I tell you I'm able to take Chris Paul off your roster and add Bradley Beal to your roster, am I a better basketball team? Yes, you're signing on the dotted line. You're a better basketball team.
Yeah, and that's what, if you're a fan, all you want is for the ownership group, the general managers, team president, everybody that's involved in these moves to continue to put a product out there that shows you they're trying to win, right? Like,
yes.
I want to, as a fan, be told that we're trying to win. It may not happen. Listen, this could fail miserably. Maybe Durant gets injured again, or maybe Booker struggles through this, or maybe Bradley Beal, that, whatever it may be, right? And I'm going to bring it back to the New York Knicks here, because I just saw Wally right in there. Just hope the Knicks do not try to get Zion. I don't know. The Zion thing, he's so super talented, And I'm not going to worry about this Mariah, whatever stuff going on the side and the baby mama and all that kind of stuff. Like, everyone's got their own demons off the court with personal matters, whatever. That doesn't mean whether he can play basketball or not. He just needs to actually be on the court. I don't know if I was a Knicks fan, and I am, by the way. I don't know if I want Zion Williamson on the roster or not. But I will tell you this. If the Knicks do nothing this offseason, Keith Irizarry, Knicks fan, not happy. That team's not built to win a championship.
No, but but you want to make sure you make the right move.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying, like, I don't know what the move is, but I want something to be done.
Might be the right decision. Why go make a bad choice? Why make a change just for the sake of making change? You got to make the right move. I like Zion Williamson. The problem with Williamson is he's never healthy. The issues that we've talked about with Zion for a while here, that has been the problem with him. When he's on the court, he's dynamic. And I can understand why the Knicks would be interested. And he's also talked about his love affair playing in Madison Square Garden. All of those things can be true. Is that the right move? I've mentioned, like, I'd be more interested in Brandon Ingram from New Orleans because of the way that he can score and given his size. Do I think New Orleans is going to move on from Brandon Ingram with the Knicks? No, I don't. I don't think the Knicks have enough to go get him from New Orleans. So they were in on Beal. He ends up in Phoenix. It's got to be the right move. I think Beal would have worked, even with the deficiencies defensively in the backcourt of Beal and Brunson. Yep. I think Beal could have made it. The Knicks can't shoot the basketball, so they would have added a guy that I think would have bought into the system, would have improved a little bit defensively, but it would have given them an asset on the outside to be able to open up things down low for other guys to be able to do work.
I had a dad this weekend tell me that as a Knicks fan, he would not want Damian Lillard. And I get the first blush is Lillard and Brunson in a backcourt means zero defense being played.
Right.
But it also means you have one of the best scoring guards in Lillard in the NBA still, and you have a fantastic dynamic playmaker, also scorer in Jalen Brunson. Like, I'd be willing to take my chances. Now, it depends on what it would be. And I did the trade machine yesterday. I was messing around with it. And if it were RJ Barrett, Obi Toppin, Quentin Grimes, Evan Fournier to match money, and then you add in a first or two firsts or whatever, it works. I ask you this question, Mark. If the Knicks were to go into the season next year with Brunson, Lillard, Quickly, Barrett, Robinson as their main five, is that not Barrett? I'm sorry, not Barrett. Barrett would have to be gone. Randall would have to still be there. Randall, is that main five better than what they had this year?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. So that. It goes back to what you were saying about Beal going to Phoenix. I don't know if Beal going to Phoenix makes them the best team in the NBA, but it makes them better than they were with Chris Paul.
Listen, Lillard can help the Knicks.
Exactly. So anybody that says you don't want him, like,
the question with the options out there, if you're Dame Lillard, would you want the Knicks?
Bingo.
That would be my question.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be, because I would think there would be teams that would be closer to winning an NBA title. That'd be interesting, Dame Lillard, than the Knicks are. Just being realistic here.
Yeah. Yep.
Howard Bender's going to join us next.
Yes.
Fantasy Alarm, he's going to join us, talk a little fantasy sports. We'll do that next. He's Keith Irizarry. I'm Mark Malusis. The show is Moose and Keith right here on the Better Sports Network.
Patrick Kane, the longtime Chicago Blackhawk, who was traded from Chicago to the New York Rangers this year, set up for free agency. But news came yesterday that he has now had hip surgery at the age of 34, and he is going to be out for 4 to 6 months. Now, Kane is probably going to Toronto as a Hall of Famer. Not to Toronto as a Maple Leaf, but, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's got 3 Stanley Cup rings. He's one of the all-time greats in Chicago Blackhawk history. I was shocked when I looked at the free agency rankings this year going into the offseason, and Patrick Kane I saw a couple places where he was the number 1 free agent. I saw a few more where he was number 3 or number 4 or 5. I couldn't wrap my head around that. I am surprised, and maybe it speaks more to the available free agents, and I think that is part of the case. I mean, you've got, Bergeron's out there, Tarasenko, Ryan O'Reilly. Like, to see a guy coming off the season he had, Patrick Kane had a bad season. It might have been his worst season. But he had 57 points in 73 games. I was surprised to see that he would be sought after in this market. Now, he is a veteran. He is a respected dude. He's got the Stanley Cup rings, all of that. But paying $6-7 million a season for a 34-year-old, couldn't see it. And now with this hip surgery that was announced yesterday, who signs this guy? And I mean, Patrick Kane was dealing with a hip issue all year. Now, he played through it, give him credit. He chose to have the surgery. He probably knew that if a team even was interested in him, they'd look at the meds and they'd put him through a physical and say, oh, this ain't going to happen. So he just decided to take care of it. Now, you play this out 4 to 6 months, you're talking anywhere between like October and Christmas for Patrick Kane. So even if you sign the guy, you're going to have a guy nearing 35, and you're going to get him for a half season. So I will be following that market. I mean, is anybody giving him more than like a $3 million base or $2 million base? Is anybody giving him more than a year? I mean, sure, there'll be incentives and options and all that, but there's a guy that lost a lot of money, getting set for NHL free agency. Again, that opens on July 1st.
Remember when cops and rats talking out so fast, boy, hey, with a badge.
Back here, Moose and Teeth and Moose, we're playing your song for you.
Yeah, there you go.
Lil Durk, J. Cole, All My Life.
All My Life. That's it.
By the way, just want to throw it out there. Lil Mabu is the new rapper that is out there crushing the game. Austin my older son put me on to him yesterday, and I think I like him. We're going to bring in Howard Bender, who's a big Lil Mabu, Lil Durk. He likes Lil Bow Wow. He likes all the Lils. Lil Kim. I heard she's touring again, Howard. Will you be at the Lil Kim concert if she's touring again?
Absolutely. I mean, because I've seen actually Little Kim before. So my wife and I, we used to own a live music venue out here in San Francisco. And actually, I think it was 2011, Lil Kim was just getting out of jail and she played her first show at our club. It was at the same time as the Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association conference. And so I brought everybody from the FSGA over to Lil Kim for a little fun, little bottle service, and absolutely a great night. So I'm in 100% on Lil Kim.
How did that work? So, like, all right, I'm going to be brutally honest with everyone watching right now. None of that was planned. I literally, the song came on. I'm like, oh, let's just throw out all the Lils. And you had a real Lil Kim story. That's amazing.
Yeah, listen, that was that. I think that was just as I was like kind of turning into the industry. I had just started full time with Fantasy Alarm, and that moment that put me on the map around the conference. So yeah, it was a good time.
So you're big into music then. Like, what was your music genre coming up?
Well, all right. So growing up, it started off as heavy metal. In the early '80s, a lot of Sabbath, a lot of Maiden. From there, I went to classic rock. Then I discovered the Grateful Dead. That was kind of it for me there. Then it was all just jam band scene. But my personal philosophy is, if you have the opportunity to see any musical icon, and I don't care if it's Tom Jones or Taylor Swift, you go to that concert and you make sure you do it. It's an icon that is just an unbelievable talent. You have to see it no matter what genre it is.
Love it, Howard. That's awesome. And agree. Howard, let's talk a little fantasy here. And get into what's your approach early on when you're looking at putting together what you're looking at trying to accomplish in fantasy drafts.
Fantasy football, fantasy baseball.
Fantasy football. Apologize.
What am I trying to accomplish? I'm trying to accomplish winning every single league.
No, for sure. No, I get that. Are there on your board? On your board? Are there guys that you're taking off that you have no interest in drafting? Are there guys that you're willing to draft if they're in a certain spot, certain amount of money, whatever the draft format is, stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's all about, and this is one of the things that I teach over at Fantasy Alarm, and we put in our draft guide, which is available right now.
Live. Oh yeah.
Right. And you can just take it for a spin, just do a 7-day free trial and just check it all out. But what I usually do every year is I do a coaching systems article, and I go through it because, one of the things that I've stood by is that your year-to-year data in football is very sketchy because of all the player movement, all the coaching movement. Coming into this season right now, we have 16 new offensive coordinators. Now, not every single one of them is changing the system around, because some of the coordinators, like you take Brown from Carolina, and that's Frank Reich's system, and Brown's going to do what he does in the mold of what Frank Reich wants. So, but with all of that, then I dive in and I try to find out, I look at the offensive lines. I look at what the blocking schemes are. Is this an outside zone blocking scheme? Are they looking to, do power running on the inside? And from there, then what I do is I build off, and I do this in the article series every year, is I talk about who the players are who shine brightest in each system. So as I'm diving into each offensive scheme right now, I'm trying to take a look and see, who are the guys who I'm fading and who are the guys that I'm getting a little bit more bullish on. So right now, early on in the prep work, there are a couple of standouts of guys who I might avoid, like let's say Miles Sanders and DeAndre Swift. Swift replaces Sanders in Philadelphia, and I don't think either one of them are in a great situation right now. On the other hand, I'm willing to draft Dalvin Cook because he might be unsigned, but I'm getting a discount on him because people aren't taking him until the 5th or 6th round. And what you look at here is that the two teams who are the favorites to get him right now, the Jets and the Dolphins, well, both running schemes absolutely fit the profile for Dalvin Cook. So, I'm willing to take that. And if you're going to give me, at a 2, 3, 4 round discount, I'm all in for that one, guys.
I don't think these next two running backs 100% fall into the same category, but I want to put them together for this question. How do you handle either aging running backs or guys that have heavy workloads? So Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara.
Okay. Well, I mean, Kamara's got some interesting situations here because we are still kind of waiting to see whether or not he actually gets suspended for the first, 6 weeks is what everybody's talking about. But we're looking at a nice discounted price for him. So I don't mind drafting him, even at his age. He thrives in the pass catching format. Like that's what we've seen Alvin Kamara do. What was it? It was like 4 or 5 straight seasons with 81 receptions. That's his game. If that's what the Saints are going to stick with him, then I'm perfectly fine with that. A guy like Derrick Henry, yeah, you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop with him. The workload has just been absolutely abusive, and he's taken it. He's taken it. But what you're looking at in drafts right now is you're seeing a very heavy wide receiver first round, which is now pushing down some of these bigger running backs. And now all of a sudden I'm starting to see Derrick Henry go in the late 2nd round. If you're telling me that I can get a bell cow back who's probably still going to see another 300 carries, I'll definitely I'll pair him up with whatever top wide receiver I ended up grabbing early on in the draft. So I'm perfectly fine with that. And then just handcuff him. Take him and handcuff him to whoever his backup is. I think it's Tajee Spears, I think is the backup's name in Tennessee. I'll use a late round draft pick on him because it's basically a free pick. Nobody's touching him. And if something happens to Derrick Henry, boom, I'll take Spears definitely over even Hassan Haskins.
Howard, what do you do with what are you doing with the Jets and a guy like Breece Hall? What do you feel the year kind of Aaron Rodgers is going to have this year in gangrene?
All right, so pessimistic Jets fan right here.
Yeah,
I mean, I was born the year after they won the Super Bowl, so it's been a very, very tough road for me. And so listen, I think Rodgers is definitely going to make the Jets better, 100%. I mean, their quarterback situation last year was absolutely pathetic. And everybody said that had the Jets had a legitimate quarterback, they could have made that run. Aaron Rodgers should be okay. Mid-tier quarterback, a guy you'll take in the 8th or 9th round, maybe pair him up with another veteran like a Matthew Stafford or Russell Wilson, who, people are kind of leaving behind there. So I look at Aaron Rodgers as saying, this guy, he doesn't need to be Hall of Fame Aaron Rodgers. You just need a serviceable quarterback, and he's got the weapons that you want from there. I think Garrett Wilson is going to be a top target, and I think the two of them are going to gel very nicely. I think Alan Lazard becomes a little bit of a sleeper. I think Aaron Rodgers kind of sticks with him a little bit more just for the comfort factor as he gets his feet wet, in this offensive scheme. Because remember, Nathaniel Hackett is joining the Jets, and so they can't run exactly what they ran back in Green Bay when Rodgers was in his prime, but they are going to try and run something similar. Now, Breece Hall is a different story for me because you never know how somebody's going to react or come back from a torn ACL. And I know they're like, oh, it was a clean tear and, whatever. But the fact remains is that Breece Hall right now, 3 months ago, he was going to be available in week 1. He probably won't start camp on time, but he's available in week 1. Now here we are sitting in the mid to late June, and we're kind of worried that Breece Hall not likely to start the season on time for the Jets. And with the Jets being the odds-on favorite, I think it was like plus 600 for them to acquire Dalvin Cook, that would end up on a 1-year deal. And that tells me that the Jets know that the future is Breece Hall, but they'd much rather carry him and bring him along slowly during the year if they can do that. In order to avoid, basically what happened to Saquon Barkley.
Listening to you speak and you incorporating betting and fantasy, let's discuss that a little bit too, because I think from afar, everyone has always thought about you as the fantasy football guy, fantasy baseball guy, the fantasy guy, right? And I followed you on social media for a while. We've known each other for a while through social media and now working here. I think you've done a fantastic job of sprinkling in gambling as like a baseline sometimes to help people from fantasy. Can you go further with that? Like, how do you look at some of the odds that these books give that might help people from a fantasy standpoint?
I mean, what I do it from a fantasy standpoint is I go to where the props are. And when the props come out, you can sit there. I love betting win totals also. That's always a great thing to do. You kind of look at the differentials on some teams and what you like and what you don't like. But when it comes to blending fantasy and betting in together, you go to the prop list and you see where everybody is most bullish on a guy. And you do it week to week. Like you could sit there and you can be like, oh, well, this running back who averages, 65 yards per game, suddenly his prop is at 82.5 yards. Well, obviously we're expecting something a little bit better from him there. You use it as a guideline. Obviously, there are always lines that become suspicious and you worry about, what you're seeing and you kind of hedge a little bit. But I think that you can definitely use betting lines for props as guidelines for when you're setting your fantasy lineup. Let's say you're making that decision between starting, I don't know, DJ Moore versus Alan Lazard. And all of a sudden you see DJ Moore, his prop for receiving yards, his receptions is, the over-under is 3.5. And you're looking at an over-under of 52.5 yards. But then you see Alan Lazard and his prop is 6.5 receptions and his over-under is 73 yards. So you kind of look at that and you say, all right, well, Vegas is telling me that Alan Lazard's likely to have that stronger game than DJ Moore is. Could a fluky touchdown happen? Yeah, sure. But if you're playing the percentages in that fashion for the majority of time, you'll be more right than you will be wrong.
Make sure to check out obviously join up to $2,500 no sweat first bet by using fantasyalarm.com/FanDuel. Join FanDuel Sportsbook and deposit $10 or more. Place your first bet up to $2,500. Get up to $2,500 in bonus bets back if you lose. We're being joined here by Howard Bender. Howard, I'm curious about rookies because, I get into fantasy leagues where a lot of guys just love loading up on rookies and they get – You know what I'm talking about. Like, and
I'm taking Bijan. I want Jameer.
Right. I mean, it's just they can't wait for the greatest new flavor out there, right? So, What rookies intrigue you most, given their situations with NFL teams as training camps are right around the corner, fantasy wise?
Well, I mean, we can joke about, I want my shiny new toys, and Bijan Robinson definitely heads the list there. But let's face it. I mean, I wish I loved anything as much as Arthur Smith loves to run the football. I don't know, but Bijan Robinson is going to end up with like 732 carries. And don't worry, because Tyler Algier will still get his 250 touches. I mean, it's crazy what they're planning on doing over there in Atlanta. So, strictly from a fantasy standpoint, you got to love the volume. We hope Desmond Ridder is going to be better and that he's going to end up being able to at least establish a reasonable passing game with Drake London and using Kyle Pitts. And that hopefully prevents everybody from like really stacking the box. So I do love Bijan Robinson. Jahmyr Gibbs is a tough call for me because I don't know exactly what Detroit's going to do. They're going to move him all over the field. Is this really going to gel in that offense? You want to say you want to line up Jahmyr Gibbs in the slot, but that's where Amon-Ra St. Brown spent the majority of his time last year. So what are you going to do? Suddenly displace Amon-Ra St. Brown from a comfort zone standpoint and move him out? So I'm a little leery on this. I'll tell you what, the wide receiver that you want, if you're drafting late in August, the wide receiver that you want is the guy that everybody has been crapping on the entire preseason, because that's the guy who, you end up scooping up in the 13th, 14th round, who pays dividends. A couple of years ago, nobody was talking Justin Jefferson, and he was a beast. The year after that, Jamar Chase couldn't catch footballs because there were no white stripes painted on them. And look what he's done. Last year, Christian Watson, Aaron Rodgers hates the rookies, and this dude's nursing a hamstring injury. And that dude was money in the bank come down to the second half of the season. So if I'm going to throw a sleeper out there right now, I saw a report that says that Jalen Hyatt is only running with the threes over in New York Giants camp. So yes, lower that ADP. I'll grab him in the 14th round because that's a young rookie wide receiver who definitely has the potential of breaking out and being a number one in this offense because there's no competition. There's no competition. Isaiah Hodgins is their best guy.
Yeah. All right, so you just mentioned some wide receivers. You mentioned the name Justin Jefferson, presumably going to be the number one pick in most fantasy drafts. So we've seen the shift. I think what was the last time that we had a wide receiver that we all felt comfortable drafting one was Antonio Brown, right? That was probably the last time, maybe Cooper Kupp potentially, but really Antonio Brown. So when you look at that first round, Jefferson, then who?
It's actually Chase and then Jefferson for me.
Oh, okay.
I'm always about the guy on his way up than the guy who's already done it. And what Justin Jefferson did last year was fantastic. You've taken Adam Thielen out of that realm, and that becomes a little bit of a concern there. So, not in the sense that, Jordan Addison can't, help out. Let me put my smart glasses on for this one. Like Jordan Addison will be fine, and you've got TJ Hawkinson in there, but teams are going to be a lot more leery about not double covering Justin Jefferson and really putting the clamps on him. You can't do that as much in Cincinnati because you got T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, who are both outstanding secondary and tertiary receivers. So I love Chase first overall, and then from there, then I'll go to Justin Jefferson. Beyond that, I might have to pull up my rankings here, guys, just so I can take a look at it. But that Cooper Kupp is there strictly for the volume. I mean, that's a must. I love Tyreek Hill. AJ Brown is money in the bank, and I'll tell you what, I might hate the Cowboys on a personal level here, but CeeDee Lamb, I think, is primed for an absolute stud muffin breakout season this year. You've got good complementary receivers in Brandon Cooks and Michael Gallup. As long as Gallup stays healthy, which you kind of have to assume he is, all of a sudden now Dak Prescott's got some options, and you're not going to be able to double cover CeeDee Lamb. They're moving him all over the field, just the way Sean McVay has utilized Cooper Kupp. So I think Lamb is going to be a guy who's going to absolutely break out this season. So I'd say, that's my top, 6, 7 guys right there.
The Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Football Draft Guide now available. Go to fantasyalarm.com, start your free trial today. A Fantasy Alarm All Pro and get immediate free access to the draft guide. Purchase it for $26.99 or get it free with a monthly or annual All Pro subscription to Fantasy Alarm, or you can do that 7-day free trial. Check it out and see exactly what you like. How? What's your draft strategy? Because I love picking the brain of people that are really good at it. I'm not great, but I want to people that are great at draft strategy, how you attack it in terms of, I asked you before, are there guys that you just completely fade, take off the list no matter what, you're not touching them? When you're looking at positions, do you look at it to where you say, I'm going to draft, I'm not drafting a quarterback until the 4th round, or I'm not drafting a quarterback to the 5th round? Like, how do you attack a draft?
Well, I mean, it sounds trite and cliche to just say I let the board come to me, but you kind of really have to. It really depends on where you're at. If you're drafting in that first couple of picks there, and you can grab yourself a Jefferson or a Chase, well, then that's fantastic. And then when it comes back around to you in the 2nd and 3rd round, more often than not, I'll make sure I grab at least one running back, in that slot. Quarterback, it's kind of interesting because this year, and we saw this last year as well. The age of the rushing quarterback is well intact, and when you're looking at guys like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Pat Mahomes, these guys are all going earlier and earlier in drafts. It's no longer I'm going to wait on the position and just see what happens there. A lot of people are attacking the quarterback position a little bit early, so I'll kind of take a look and see what my draft is doing. More often than not, though, my first 5-6 picks are all loading up running backs and wide receivers, provided I don't get Travis Kelce. Like if I'm in there in the 1st round, I'm like a mid to late pick in the 1st round, and Travis Kelce's on the board, I'll grab him immediately, because the advantage that Travis Kelce gives you over any other tight end. And I know that everybody's like, oh, well, I could grab Mark Andrews, I can grab TJ Hawkinson. The bottom line is you show me one tight end in the last, 7 years not named Travis Kelce, who's duplicated a great breakout campaign the following year. Waller hasn't done it. Kittle hasn't done it. Andrews hasn't done it. So to me, it's Travis Kelce or bust. But then, usually like my first 5 or 6 picks all end up being running backs and wide receivers, unless I'm in a room where they kind of aren't jumping too heavy at the quarterbacks. Like if you're going to give me a Jalen Hurts in the 4th round, I'll probably take that.
Yeah, I always say I'm willing to deviate from my script. Like I'll come in with a game plan, but I also will have a 2nd option, a 3rd option, a 4th option. I think it's important. Reading the room is crucial too. When you're doing the home leagues, if you're in New York, let's say, with buddies doing it, and there are Giants and Jets fans in there, then those guys are going to be drafting them, or you're in Massachusetts and there's going to be Patriot, whatever it's going to be. I think there are options there. All right, so you mentioned tight ends. So if it's not Kelce, I'm with you. I'm kind of waiting. I'm almost punting a tight end if I'm not going Kelce. So that's kind of where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the way it is. I mean, Hawkinson's ADP has got him going in the 4th round. I think he's a great talent, and I like what they're going to do with him, in that scheme. But I mean, the 4th round does seem a little bit high for the tight end position, especially because we are concerned as to what the targets are going to be, with that. But then what you do, if you're gonna wait on the tight end position, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. What you're looking for is a tight end who is going to probably be number 2 in targets on his team. And there really aren't a lot of guys who do that. But if you're waiting on the position, you can grab like Juwan Johnson, who, I mean, let's face it, he's like, he's a ginormous wide receiver playing the tight end position. And we know that Derek Carr has an affectation for his tight end. He did it with Darren Waller. So I like Juwan Johnson, who's nice and super late. A guy like Chiga Okonkwo, his ADP is kind of rising a little bit because both Andrew Cooper and I from Fantasy Alarm, the 2 tight end whisperers, as we're known, we've been in on Chiga Okonkwo because once you've got Treylon Burks, but who's the number 2 target in that offense? And that's Chiga Okonkwo. So those are guys who I'm looking at a little later. And then when I go later on the tight end, if I draft Travis Kelce, or let's just say I go Hawkinson, I probably won't even draft a backup tight end. I'll just grab somebody during the bye weeks. But if I'm paying down, looking down at my drafts, and I grab an Okonkwo or a Jawan Johnson, late rounds, I'll probably take a shot on like Sam Laporta, rookie, but when we're dealing with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, and then Jamison Williams is suspended, maybe Laporta kind of steps it up a little bit more there in the target range. So I'll get myself a decent, promising tight end just as the backup, just kind of, keep my bases covered.
Howard, I want to ask you about DeAndre Hopkins. What's your take on what D-Hop is? I know spot where he lands, but where do you think he falls right now, talent-wise, as a receiver?
I still think DeAndre Hopkins is a tremendously talented wide receiver. I really do. I pray that he doesn't go to New England because I'm a Jets fan, and I don't need to see that because I do think that he will be strong and he will be featured. I think that, I'd love to see him land in a situation where he can be the one, but maybe there's a 1A on that team, or maybe the number 2 behind him really isn't too far. So I think that, you're not going to see a situation where he's going to get force-fed targets unless he maybe does go to New England. But even then, Bill Belichick wants to spread it around. He can still take the ball deep. He still has great hands. He can still come down with some contested catches. I think what he needs right now is he needs that quarterback who not only has the arm strength, but has the accuracy even on deeper passes, because I think that DeAndre Hopkins still probably has, another good solid 2-3 years left in him.
Let's say you're in Superflex, Cousins or Jordan Love?
Oh, Cousins.
Yeah.
Cousins.
Are you out on Jordan Love? What are you thinking?
It's not so much that I'm out on Jordan Love, but, he's so unproven. That Mike LaFleur does like to run the ball. I'm wondering if, all that Aaron Jones talk, about what he was doing. Aaron Jones was Aaron Rodgers' guy. And so he wanted Aaron Jones on the field. He didn't want A.J. Dillon on the field. Jones is a better pass blocker. He likes having the out, the little outlet there. Jordan Love, it's 2 years in the system. He's got a supportive running game. LaFleur will probably want to run the ball a little bit more often with Love there. And he needs to prove himself. Kirk Cousins, love him or hate him, established veteran. O'Connell's offense is definitely a pass-happy offense. And he's got, some of the best pass catchers in the game, side by side with him. So I'm good with Cousins there, especially in a super flex.
All right, so I'm going to read a tweet here. About to hop on with Moose and Keith, so tune in. I'm guessing we talk squash, badminton, and curling, but I could be wrong, so come check it out. So, is Victor Axelson, is he your badminton guy? He's your go-to when you're betting on badminton?
No. Xiao Chen is without a doubt the best badminton player in the world. If you ever got a chance to watch him in the Olympics, he is absolutely dominant. When he goes on tour, I'm sorry, man, I do not want to be a birdie because he's going to smack the crap out of it.
Moose, see, I told you, Howard's the best. I told you.
He's the best.
Yeah.
Howard, thank you, brother. We appreciate the time this morning, and we'll get you on again real soon, all right? Continued success.
Absolute pleasure, gentlemen. Thanks so much for having me. Anytime.
You
Thanks
got it.
A lot, man.
Make sure to check out the Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Football Draft Guide, your cheat sheet and one-stop shop for dominating your fantasy football drafts, authored by proven winning strategies. Can you help out in dynasty leagues, redraft leagues, best ball, and more? Purchase for $26.99 or get it free with a monthly or annual all-pro subscription to Fantasy Alarm. Start your free 7-day trial of Fantasy Alarm All-Pro and get immediate free access to the draft guide right now. What do you need to do? Go to fantasyalarm.com.
And it's important to note with the draft guide that Fantasy Alarm has is that they'll be updating it. So Again, you're not buying a magazine on June 20th. And then when Dalvin Cook and DeAndre Hopkins lands on rosters, or insert player gets hurt, or insert coach gets fired, or whatever it may be, remember, things will get updated as you're going along. So when you're actually doing your draft in middle of August or whatever it may be, you're getting all the updated stuff in this draft guide that you're purchasing now.
Beautiful. Love it. Moose and Keith with you. Barnett's joining us, right?
Dave Barnett, yes, he is. And
That's
I believe he's going to be wearing a shirt.
We're going to talk a little golf. I know. I'm excited. He was last time he was on McAfee last week. Did you see that?
I saw that he tweeted about it. I don't remember why I didn't
see the appearance. I didn't see the appearance, but I saw he tweeted about it.
Do you think he wore a shirt on McAfee?
I'm sure he did.
Because I maybe that's a thing for him now. He did one shirtless post, and maybe now he's going to become.
Maybe
shirtless
he's just going to be shirtless forever.
Yeah, he might be.
That's it. We'll
Shirtless
get into
Dave.
that. We'll talk a little post-U.S. Open. We'll do that next. Look ahead to the Open Championship as well. Talk a little golf. That's straight ahead. Dave Barnett, Tour Junkies, joins us next on this Tuesday right here, Better Sports Network.
I feel like this is a quietly contentious point in Dynasty Fantasy Football, what it means to actually be rebuilding. Some people say you should never truly be rebuilding. How do you view the rebuilding versus competing dichotomy in Dynasty?
So I will be the first person to acknowledge that my preferred format of fantasy football is just redraft. The years that I have played Dynasty, it has been, I've drafted a win now team because I've seen people that have just gotten into the cycle of rebuilding and thus they just don't make any progress. So if you're rebuilding for the 5th year in a row, I just, I don't know exactly how you get out of it, but yeah, it's definitely something that can happen. And a lot of people, especially when we come out of the NFL draft, everyone's just instantly shipping off, draft picks and everything. So, I mean, it's definitely something that can happen.
Joey, do you feel similarly to it? Do you feel like you see people getting stuck in the rebuilding loop?
I mean, I would say people that try to rebuild in the beginning of seasons, of their fantasy seasons, I see them get stuck in that rut. I would really try to only ever rebuild if I knew I was going to miss the playoffs. Like, I'm always trying to play to win, even if it's maybe I don't know.
I think my big thing is the word rebuild is a much shorter time frame than I think most people say it should be. Like, they look at rebuild as like 3 years out competing. Rebuild, you're looking to compete next season. You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing it now, you're looking to revamp, and maybe there's a one season where you ship it off, but that very next season you should be competing. If you're doing it like that, I'm cool with it, but you got to have a plan, not just keep getting the young players, keep getting the draft picks. Otherwise, you end up like Tim. Maybe not like Tim who gets a bye, but you make the playoffs, you're in that like 4 to 6 range every year, just hovering in the middle. Nothing ever gets better, nothing ever gets worse.
I think I play like you in Dynasty, Simon. I play in 3-year windows.
100%. That's my go-to. And with the rate at which Dynasty leagues turn over, you should really only ever play in a 3-year window.
There we go.
A little Eminem for you.
Love it coming out. Moose and Keith with you. Dave Barnett, Tour Junkies, joins us now. Dave, good morning.
Oh, what a sellout.
What's up, boys?
Hey, what's up, Dave? He's wearing a shirt. Okay.
I heard you talking about the McAfee appearance. Thanks to both of you for not watching it. I did make a last minute wardrobe decision because McAfee's always a tank top guy.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've gone on McAfee and I'm like, you know what? I got to leave an impression. I can't just be some schmuck on there that he forgets, right? And of course I was wearing my Siwoo Kim Ric Flair shirt because I love Siwoo. McAfee loves wrestling, so I had the Ric Flair thing going in there. So I had that T-shirt on, getting ready to go, and 2 minutes before they were supposed to get me on, I run downstairs, I grab some scissors, and I cut the sleeves and the collar out of the shirt to make my own tank top. McAfee loved it. He dogged my dull scissors, but I think he loved it. So mission accomplished, but there was a wardrobe change.
I think that was a fantastic choice by you. By the way, I'm sorry that I missed the McAfee appearance by you. Did it go well? It went good?
I think it went well. I do. I think it went well. I talked up Ricky Fowler on the show. I didn't give a lot of names. He's not he was more asking like golf stuff in general, US Open preview stuff in general, my time at Augusta National as a caddy. So it was fun, but I did toss out Ricky and would have loved to seen Ricky close the door on Sunday for not just that, but I had him everywhere. So that was a little disappointing, but it was a good. It was I think it was a good appearance. I think hopefully we'll be back.
Did you curse a lot on it? Because on that show, cursing is a thing.
I know. I don't think I did. I think I may have said one. Maybe I may have said one in there. I may have gotten one in there, but I didn't.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe is that in the not good column?
No.
No. I think it's fine. I'm just
Okay.
like on that one, you're allowed. Like if you wanted to just start saying F's and S's and do whatever, go ahead. Yeah.
You went back and watched it, I'm sure, right?
I don't think I did. We did some clips. Poor Junkies pulled a couple of clips, and I don't think I said anything in any of the clips. But
did your arms look good in the cutoff though?
See, I thought they did, but I saw some people in the comments saying I need to do more shoulder work, and I don't do a lot of shoulder work.
Okay.
So maybe that's the best thing to come out of all this.
Is that you need to get more trappy.
No, I'm sure you're going to be on. You're great, Dave. You know that. You'll be on with McAfee again.
Nice.
And we're glad that you're able to join us now on Tuesdays, which is great as well. I love that aspect of it too.
Yeah.
I can go back and watch it though, right? I retweeted. I showed support.
Yeah, thank you, man. I mean,
well deserved. I just didn't have. I just couldn't. I couldn't watch it at the time it happened, but I can go back and watch it.
All good, Moose. Yes, I'm giving you a hard time. You could go back and watch it.
I feel bad now.
Don't feel bad, Moose. Don't feel bad.
I don't feel bad. Barnett, how many times have you watched Better's Eye?
Yeah, never. I don't feel
bad. We're just
He doesn't know what times it's on.
Yeah, exactly. 6 o'clock during the week. You're like, I don't know.
I mean, we are talking about Pat McAfee, right? The like the biggest sports show in the world, right? That's what we're talking about.
Yes. Correct.
Okay. I mean, it's a little different.
Then MLB Network, Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I mean, but baseball? What? No, I don't. I don't watch anything to do with baseball. People are always in my comments and my Instagram videos or golf is boring. Blah blah blah. I'm like, golf is so. I don't understand how anybody could watch baseball and then think golf is boring. Now, I do think baseball is better since they've got the clock or whatever. But I don't know how you could think baseball is fun to watch and golf is not.
Well, because betting.
You can bet on golf, Keith. That's why I'm here.
What happened?
Oh, is that what you're going to do? I thought we were just going to talk about yours.
Let me ask you this. Fowler, what happened to Fowler on Sunday? I mean, you talk about after the first 2 rounds, it looked like it was Ricky's tournament to lose out there at the Los Angeles Country Club.
Yeah. I didn't feel good about it, Moose. I mean, I am this is the kind of bettor I am when I have a nice bet. I've had him in DFS. I had him everywhere. Obviously talked him up on the McAfee show. This is how I work. I feel very confident going into the final round. Very confident. Talking it up in my Discord, talking it up amongst our followers in the Discord. Feel great. The first sign of trouble, I am done. Looking for a cash out option is never happening. Not going to do it. He goes out and doesn't birdie number 1, which is the easiest hole on the golf course. And I just thought, sky's falling. It's never going to happen. Ricky's dead. He's cooked. and that's how I choose to sweat as a golf bettor. I set myself up for the letdown early and go ahead and get it out of the way. That way, if the comeback occurs, I can kind of ride the wave, But Ricky just never had it from the jump on Sunday. He looked very off. What's funny is he doesn't look mentally off. We had Hunter Mahan on our show yesterday, who's a former PGA Tour player, 6-time winner, Ryder Cup member, good friends with Ricky. They both played golf at Oklahoma State. And I asked Hunter about it, and he's obviously a lot more optimistic about it, but there's nothing mentally that you can see with Ricky that looks bad. He looks very calm, cool, and collected. The exact temperament, attitude, aura about him on a final round in a final group at a major, he had that look. He didn't look frazzled. He didn't look. You know what I mean? He had that DJ Brooks, Scotty, just kind of in the zone look. But his golf shots were just not good. He just never hit good golf shots. And he didn't make anything. The game was just flat. Hunter is quite optimistic for his outlook. Talked about his swing technically and how it's different than years past, and how relying on that technical swing will help him going down, in the last half of his career. But it was, if you're a Ricky Fowler fan and you were holding a Ricky Fowler ticket Sunday, it was a heartbreaking day from the jump.
No doubt.
Wyndham Clark, he wins it.
Yeah.
Who is he?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure I've talked him up on this show a lot this year.
I meant that facetiously, by the way. But yeah,
listen, Wyndham, when he won the Wells Fargo a month ago, I did a Instagram, TikTok, or whatever, and I said, this could be a hot take for people watching golf out there that don't know who Wyndham Clark is and haven't been tracking the data. But Wyndham Clark, I said this after he won the Wells Fargo, Wyndham Clark could be the next Max Homa. He could be a guy who's a late bloomer, who kind of had his struggles a little bit, who never could break out, never could get a win, seemingly unpredictable, very talented kid out of college. He was the number one player out of college when he left Oregon, but then just underperformed. But now that he's leveled up an aspect of his game that was missing, which was the iron play, and he has all the distance that you need on the PGA Tour, you got to have it. And he can putt, which is the other thing. Now he has kind of everything. I said, be on the lookout for this guy. He could do a Max Homa kind of run where all of a sudden he wins, and then before you know it, he's won 5 times. And before you know it, he's a top 10 player in the world. And 4 weeks later, Wyndham Clark just did it, and he's the number 13 player in the world right now. Let's see how it goes now that he's won a major, how he handles it, what changes for him, what happens. But the guy is extremely talented. He will be on our Ryder Cup team this year. I can almost guarantee you that. And I think he's an interesting player. He's 29 years old, which now everybody looks at and calls a late bloomer. But, 15, 20 years ago and every decade before that, guys didn't hit their prime until their 30s in golf. We've just gotten used to seeing so many young guys come straight out of college. Jordan Spieth, Bryson DeChambeau come straight out of college and just dominate, and that's what we expect of all of them. And it doesn't always work that way.
What's your take on what we saw from Rory over the weekend? Contended, but once again came up short. And the last major he won was 2014.
Yeah, and the Open Championship in a month is at that golf course that he last won in 2014. Listen, you guys know I'm kind of a Rory beta. I don't really love Rory, but I will say I think he played as. I don't think he played. He hit the ball as well as he could have hit it that day. I think he did exactly what you needed to do. His game plan seemed sound. His and then the execution from a ball striking standpoint was very, very good. He made nothing. He made absolutely 0 putts. What was his longest putt of the day? It was like 4.5 feet. That's insane. So to me, Rory did everything you have to do on a Sunday at a U.S. Open. You just have to hit your fairways, hit your greens, hold on, and more than likely, if there's a guy ahead of you, he'll fall back, which is what Clark did as he bogeyed 2 of the last 4 holes. But it just wasn't enough, and Rory made no putts. So I think Rory showed something. I think Rory. He played well all 4 rounds, which we normally don't see in majors. He normally starts out extremely slow in majors, and then kind of wakes up and storms up the leaderboard. I think it was a very good major for Rory.
Well, it's on tap for the week ahead. Travelers Championship, right in Cronwell, Connecticut.
Yeah, it's an elevated event. So you've got, again, the best players in the world here, and this is really the last elevated event we have until we get to the Open Championship. And the Genesis Scottish Open is the week before, but coming up after this is a couple of really low value weeks in terms of the top players in the world. But this course this week is TPC River Highlands. It's a golf course that a lot of guys love, and a lot of different guys can win here. We've seen short knockers that can putt. We've seen bombers that can't. We've seen all different types of players can win here, which I love handicapping an event like that because it really opens up your opportunities. It's not just one skill set that's likely to win. But again, it is an elevated event. You've got the best players in the world. So it's unlikely we see a winner past that, 50, 60 to 1 range, but it could happen. This is a Pete Dye design, and it's going to be an interesting week. The weather looks fine. So, we'll see what happens. But you've got the factor of a lot of these guys coming from LA to Connecticut after possibly 4 brutal rounds at the U.S. Open that they can take a lot out of you mentally and emotionally more so than physically. And a lot of these guys aren't used to playing the week after a major. A lot of these guys choose not to play the week after a major if you go back and look at historically what they've done year after year, but they have to play because of the elevated event status. So guys like John Rahm, Matthew Fitzpatrick have never made it a point to come play here. But now they're here, which I think kind of says something.
Yeah, it does say so. I guess my thing is, who do you think, what players then, when you're looking at this tournament, the Travelers, Dave, what players then would you pinpoint that they won't have the U.S. quote unquote U.S. Open hangover?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm still going to play plenty of guys that played the U.S. Open, but I do think you have to look at each one a little bit independently. Patrick Cantlay is a guy who finished T14 at the U.S. Open. He was never in the conversation in terms of winning it once balls got in the air on Thursday, but a good finish. He's a guy who absolutely loves coming to this place. He comes here every year after the U.S. Open. He's on record saying he loves the golf course, he loves the event, he loves the town, he loves everything about it. And he's got 5 top 15 finishes in the last 5 years at this golf course. It seems tailor-made for Patrick Cantlay. And the books have priced that in. He's like 10-1, which I don't love that. I would rather maybe let's wait and see what if anything live could change. Maybe he starts off sluggish and we have a live betting opportunity on Cantlay to get him at that 14-1 or longer number potentially. I do think he's a solid top 10 bet. I bet that earlier. I think at plus 135 on FanDuel was the best number I saw for a top 10. A guy like Cantlay loves this place, so I definitely think he's probably one up at the top. I still look at Victor Hovland as well, and just continue to think about how Victor's playing and what he's doing. Here's what I like. I like really talented guys that are coming over from the Open that are young guys with vitality, with energy, that aren't going to be, moping around here after the travel from LA. And they got no wives, they got no kids, they got nothing to do but play damn golf and play for $20 million. So Hovland fits that category. A guy like Tom Kim, who we just saw play well at the U.S. Open, and I think would be a great fit for this course. And a guy like Sahith Theegala, who finished runner-up here last year. Those are 3 names kind of that I like as we work down the board.
I like that. Anything new with the marriage between Liv and PGA Tour?
No, nothing new. It's kind of funny. Like last week, all that conversation pretty much got tabled, with the exception of a few questions pre-tournament in the press conferences and stuff. But isn't it funny that like we still? I said this to Hunter yesterday on our show. I was like, number one, we've heard nothing about Jay Monahan since he was hospitalized. Nothing. Number two, we still haven't heard from Tiger Woods. And Hunter knows Tiger. Came up he was in the generation that had to fight Tiger every freaking week when he was peaking. And he just said, I don't think we're going to hear from Tiger until we have more details, until there are more details flushed out in this merger or what this looks like. He said, I don't think we're going to hear from him, which I kind of understand, but I kind of don't. If you're Tiger and you're the GOAT and you are the mouthpiece of golf globally, I don't care, who you want to throw out there as the PGA Tour or whatever. I think Tiger's it. People want to hear from Tiger, and people want Tiger to speak out on this one way or the other, or neutral, just something. It's just kind of crazy that we've not heard from him at all.
What do you make of the Watson letter? Tom Watson, obviously, and clearly, obviously in retirement, but a legendary American player. When you look at Watson, wanting more answers or critical of the Live deal.
I guess it's not really surprising. I read it once. I kind of skimmed it. I don't know that I really like Tom Watson. I think he's kind of a curmudgeonly old bastard. And I think we've heard some of that around Tom Watson from people, privately. I don't.
Ornery.
Yeah, a little bit ornery. I imagine that's what Pat will be like in older age. I need to find a way to hedge against that. And
you don't think you'll be ornery?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I don't see Dave as an ornery guy. No, I don't see it.
66 years old.
Dude.
Won't be.
No, dude. I am very level. I'm very level. I'm not going to be like that, man.
Pat's going to be ticked off, angry, yelling at the clouds.
Pat's ticked off all the time now. He's triggered. I guarantee he's triggered right now about something. And I don't even know, but I guarantee he's triggered.
I would say if we throw Pat into this, if we did a ranking of the top 4, like when all of us are 65 years old or older, the ornery list, I would go Pat 1, Moose 2, and then me and Dave would be hovering around 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I'd probably put me 3, him at 4, but I think I could see it flipping either way.
Dude, I'm a very happy guy.
Me too.
It takes a lot to trigger me.
I get it.
And I'm just level.
So never disappointed. Like something doesn't go your way. You're
disappointed. Yeah. Disappointed, but not like, Tom Watson's the guy who probably is like writing letters to his HOA and bitching about his neighbor's dogs or something, or a gate, or somebody's flower
Right, the barbecue. They were barbecuing for too
right.
long.
Good trash. Their trash cans.
The music's too loud. All that kind of stuff.
They've got a car parked on the grass.
Yeah,
the trash can's the big thing. I mean, you're only allowed the 24 whatever size one, and he had the 26. So
somebody threw a bag of trash in my trash can. Somebody put their trash in my trash can.
Can't do that.
Tom is writing a letter and showing up at the HOA meeting.
You're probably right about that.
Yeah, and I don't do that. I would never.
I don't think you would. I don't think you would.
Pat would though.
Pat would 100% do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Moose would consider it. I don't think he would do it, but he would think about it.
That's why Pat's 1 and Moose is 2.
Yeah.
There you go. So if you're out, thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. So if you're out and Pat is someone, looks at Pat the wrong way, does he all of a sudden just get triggered? Does he get angry?
It depends on at what point of the night we are in terms of the alcohol consumption. If as alcohol consumption goes up, triggerability also goes up.
Yes, I can understand.
It just, he'll get the fisticuffs real quick. You know what I mean?
It's also working to get himself back in shape, right? Like, I mean, he's starting to he lost some weight. Like he looks good. He looks good.
He looks good.
No, he does. He does.
Trimmed out his face. He looks great.
Yeah.
He looks like 15 years younger.
Yep.
I know, man. Yeah, he's been doing that jaw exercise thing, where you put the
bite the thing.
Yeah, you bite. No, he hasn't.
He did not buy that.
No, he didn't.
That's like the fakest thing on the internet.
Damn it! I should have stuck with it and spread the root.
You should have.
Yeah.
Well, remember when DeChambeau was talking about how much he chewed his food in order to break it down properly?
Oh my God! Yes, Moose. What a pull! Yeah, I do remember.
Do you remember how nonsensical that was when he was winning the U.S. Open at Winged Foot, and people were like, "What are you doing?" Then he's eating pizza with Portnoy and this and that. And so, like, if people are like, "Well, what else are you doing?" He's like, "Well, I make sure I chew each piece of food like at least 100 times so it breaks down." And people are like, "Really? Are you serious?" Like, I was doing local radio in New York at the time. I'm like, "What are we all morons?" Like, literally, just eat the food. Like, what are we doing?
I cannot. I have not thought about that since it came out. That's a good one. Yeah, Bryson, what a guy.
By the way, last one for me, David, it would be this: are we done at LACC? Let's be honest. There wasn't a real U.S. Open. The fairways were as wide as like an air, like they were as wide as anything. The rough didn't come into play as much. Like, I don't need to see Lionel Richie's house, and know that they're hitting the ball over his pool in order to be riveted by
Lionel Richie's a legend, though.
I understand he's a legend. Yes, who doesn't love the Commodores? But the point being is, I don't need to see that to get into the U.S. Open. Like, the LA Country Club was terrible.
Yeah, so I'm not a big architecture golf guy. I'm diehard golf fan. I don't get into the golf architecture thing. So I'm not going to sit here and debate with you why width is a thing to protect against distance. And when I say width, I mean width of the fairways. I'm not going to get into you against that, but you could look that up and read about it. I think the USGA is already committing pretty much to going back to LACC. They've got it on the slate for 2039. This is how the USGA does this. They put it so far out so these golf courses can plan. But they've got it all the way out to 2039. And so, I mean, who the hell knows? And if they do, so much could change between now and then, But I agree with you in that that LACC should be ashamed of themselves, and they won't be because apparently they're all absolute just filthy rich, elitist pricks. But they should be ashamed of themselves for what they did with the tickets and 9,000 tickets available, buying up half of them so that the plebes didn't make it out to the golf course and giving them to all their corporate sponsors, and it being such a corporate event and it being such a lackluster vibe for the United States biggest championship in the Open. We're getting laughed at and made fun of by people overseas that are there in Europe that are about to host the Open Championship.
There's no crowds. We're
getting mocked by them. Nobody on the internet enjoyed it. I know somebody that was there and said it was brutal to find a place to watch golf. So no, I mean, LACC should be ashamed of themselves. We should eject them into the sun for future U.S. Open appearances. But I don't think the USGA is going to do that.
By the way to come full circle. By the way, you just dropped a curse word or whatever you want to call it right there. Had you done that on the McAfee show, I think you'd be a regular contributor. Just saying.
I swear, I think I got one in there.
All right, we're gonna find out. If you're a regular in the rotation there, then we'll know why.
What's your? I mean, 2 minutes to air. You're cutting your shirt is just amazing.
Yeah.
I was literally right here, like getting ready. And I was like, huh. I like took off running, came back, cut my sleeves, cut my collar. I ruined my Siwoo Kim shirt. I got to get Pat to ship me another one. My Pat. And then the first thing that happened when I came on is McAfee's looking at me. And he's like, "You got some dull scissors there, pal. Like, what kind of scissors you got in your house?" And I was like, because I cut it so quick and it was all like jagged and you know pretty bad. I was like, "Dude, I thought I was quick on my feet." I said, "McAfee, you have a daughter now. I got 3 kids, man. You can't have razor sharp scissors in your house. You know, kids are gonna grab them and just start cutting away." So I thought I jived nicely there.
Dave, you're the best, man. We love
Sounds good to me.
One play this weekend would be who?
Hovland.
If you had to pick one golfer
to win,
to win, ride or die. Doesn't matter the odds. Who you picking?
Harris English.
Harris
That's my dark horse there. I'm gonna go. I was all over him last week. He finished top 10 last week for me. I think Harris English, who's a past champion here, he's coming around after injury. I love his top 20 number, his top 10 number, and I'm gonna bet him outright.
Dave, you're great, man. Appreciate it. Send our best to Pat. We'll talk to you next week. All right, man?
Will do. See ya.
You got it. Dave Barnett, Tour Junkies. Always great catching up with him. Hard on the LA Country Club. There's no doubt, 100% correct. There was just no vibe at the U.S. Open as compared to, other years where the crowd comes into play. I mean, it's our national championship when you look at the world of golf, when you look at the U.S. Open. I didn't love the course. I didn't love to hear about Sammy Davis Jr. playing this course or Frank Sinatra playing the course or here's Lionel Richie's house or I really don't care. No, I love Lionel Richie. I really do. It's nothing against Lionel Richie. Amazing artist. I didn't love the course. I didn't love the vibe watching it from a home. 3,500 miles away or whatever.
Yeah. Tour Junkies tonight, Dave Barnett. You got Pat Perry. They deliver informative and entertaining talk, including interviews with PGA Tour and LIV golf players and caddies. You can have more fun with golf. They have daily fantasy sports like crazy, lots of betting with Tour Junkies. It is Dave and Pat is now on his journey to fitness supremacy with Dave Barnett. Yes.
No doubt. We're going to talk a little NBA. Brian Geltzeiler is going to join the program next. He's Keith Arizari. I'm Mark Malusis. Moose and Keith with you on this Tuesday right here, Better Sports Network.
Moose and Keith. Weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern.
The word genius is there. Bob Glover, it describes him. Bob, so when's the last time that Twitter defeated you? Because I've been defeated by Twitter today.
I'll tell you how Twitter defeated me one time. I had the mistaken impression that the year that Troy Polamalu won the Defensive Player of the Year, it looked like it was going to go to Clay Matthews Jr. And I tweeted it. And there was a guy on the media bus. He was like, "Oh, yeah, he's got it, a guy I trust." I won't tell you who it was, but his initials are Mike Garafalo. So I went with it. Got a DM from Rich Eisen, NFL Network. He goes, "You sure about that?" I go, "Oh, man. Oh, I just got this wave." Because accuracy to me is really important. So I'm literally on the media bus. We're just getting back from media day. We are slipping and sliding in Dallas. It's snowing. I get off the bus. I open my laptop. I am hunched over. And I just literally people are passing me. "Bob, what's wrong?" And it was Polamalu. And Adam Schefter had retweeted me. Trey Wingo had retweeted me. I'm like, I'm dead.
So when it's Polamalu, then how do you handle that? What was the subsequent tweet
I think
afterwards?
I said, got some bad Twitter info. I didn't put Garafalo's name on there. I had to
10 years later, you can out him. I like that. Yeah.
He wouldn't mind that. He knows the stories.
Yeah.
He actually said to me, "Hey, Bob, I think you might have jumped the gun on that." I was like, "Oh, crap." There we go.
Campus to Canton on the Better Sports Network.
Would Dion bench Shedeur?
I don't think he would.
How bad would it have to be? Because we've seen horrendous quarterback play from this Colorado team for the last, 5 years? JT Shroud, Brandon Lewis, just terrible quarterback play. They were 131st which is dead last in pass EPA per play, obviously it will be better. But how bad does it have to be for him to bench his own son? Like, I'm not sure he will ever either. Like, especially with the attitude that he came in with.
If they don't get Rashada, who do they bench him for this year anyway? I don't know that there's another answer on that roster that you go to. They don't really have a guy behind him. So I don't even know if we would know the answer to that until the next year, assuming that, he doesn't declare for the draft, he returns, they bring somebody else that's competent and behind him.
If they're going to do this the Lincoln Riley way, next year would be the class to bring somebody in. Shedeur Sanders is going to be a third-year player, so he's going to play 2023. I don't think he's declaring for the 2024 NFL draft, so he's going to play in 2024 and then declare for the 2025 NFL draft. And let's remember this, he hasn't had a full recruiting cycle at Colorado. He will have that next recruiting cycle, so maybe he could get one of these class of 2024 quarterbacks there to come to Colorado.
However you're invested in sports, from betting to fantasy, collectibles, and more, join our community on Better Sports Network.
Win every single race.
Yes.
See ya.
That's exactly right. That's the artist.
Let's see ya.
Brian Geltzeiler will be with us here in a little bit, momentarily. How have your baseball bets been going, Keith?
Very well. Last week, walk-off winners, Stryker and I combined at an 8-2 record. Both of us went 4-1.
There you go.
I think we were up 11 units. I think it was.
Well, that's great.
I got bit by the hook last night. I had the Austin Gomber over 5.5 hits allowed is what I decided to. I'm trying to mix in some different bets, like some different things. Nailed everything with Jordan Lyles yesterday. I sometimes feel, I was talking about this with my older son, Austin. Like, I sometimes feel bad when I'm team fade a certain player, right? Like, we all had that with Patrick Corbin at the beginning of this year. Last year, you could go against Josiah Gray with him giving up a lot of home runs. And now this year, it's been a lot of fade Jordan Lyles, fade this pitcher, whatever. So I faded Lyles yesterday, nailed that, multiple bets there, had Kerry Carpenter over 1.5 total bases, worked. He had the big home run yesterday for the Tigers. I think I'm going to go back to the Tigers today as well. They're going up against Daniel Lynch. He struggled also. But Austin Gomber, yeah. So we're going into the Reds. I had the Reds team total over 4.5. So we get that by the end of the game. They win 5-4.
Okay.
But we're going into, I want to say it was the 5th inning, and it was a 2-2 or 3-2 game. Reds trailing. But the Reds had the 2 runs off of 2 home runs and only 3 hits. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to lose this bet. This walk-off winner seemed like a gimme, right? We get into the 6th inning, and Gomber, first pitch to, I think it was Jonathan India, blazes one down the third base line. Moustakas is there, boots it. It was a hard play. I'm like, no, give him a hit, give him a hit. It's an E5. Next one is an infield hit for De La Cruz, and then they pull Gomber, and I lose by the hook.
Oh.
And Jessica Brand, who used to call into our show all the time, right? She's our lead researcher for Bettor's Eye on MLB Network, MLB.com, MLB.tv. We were talking about it, and I think in the meeting today, I'm going to pitch a new segment idea. I'd like to call it this. You tell me if you like it. Hook yes, hook no.
Okay.
Like playing off of the hook, but also and on Fridays, we cut together, our editors maybe cut together like a montage or something of 3 or 4 plays that Stryker and I either won by the hook or lost by the hook. So hook yes or hook no.
I like that.
Yeah, so I'm going to pitch that. I'm going to pitch that today in the meeting.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let me know how that pitch goes. I like.
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe they'll shoot us down. Who knows?
Wally wants no. I think those are good ideas. Wally wants to send his best to Jessica as well. Please,
Wally, I will let Jessica know that you sent. You know what? I'm gonna send Jessica a text right now.
Yeah, Jessica.
Tell her that Wally is mad that.
How about the Reds right now? Wally,
they're the best in baseball.
Out of here. De La Cruz, Votto coming back last night, hitting a home run. Said he basically told his buddies that he'd hit a home run in his first 2 at-bats last night, and that's exactly what Joey Votto has done. They've won 9 in a row. The Reds are fun to watch, man.
The Reds are this year's Baltimore Orioles. So remember, the Orioles last year ended up, I think it was with 84 wins on the season, and they were just like screwing everybody up. Now, the thing about the Reds is they're in a very winnable NL Central right now. The Pirates can't get out of their own way. They started the season 28. Since then, they've been struggle bus galore. The Brewers are nothing special at all. The Cardinals, while everyone wants to believe that they can bounce back and figure this out, they still haven't. So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, the Reds are very, very viable. They have young pitchers on that staff. They're chock full of talent all across the board. And I even add in the 39-year-old Votto as the veteran leader. I love it.
Yeah, I love it as well. I'm right. Call it Captain Hook. Wear a pirate outfit and an eye patch.
No, I'm good. Thanks.
That'd be great, though. That'd go viral.
It would. So, I mean, I've kind of seen some of that stuff too with the Captain Hook part. I was like, when I was coming up with ideas last night, I was trying to come up with something I haven't seen yet. And Hook,
how about throwing a peg leg?
Okay, I could do that too. Yeah.
You walk across. You've got
Sure, that's an option. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, we'll throw it out there. I mean, we could ask our next.
Can you do a good pirate?
Army mighty. Walk the plank.
That's not bad.
Yeah, there you go. That was all tough too. I didn't even practice it.
You're an actor.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
And scene.
Let's welcome aboard Brian Geltzeiler, Sirius XM NBA Radio, joins us now. And we love Geltz. He's fantastic. It's NBA draft week.
He's probably like, what am I walking into? I just keep talking like a pirate.
Geltz, let's start here. A lot of interesting rumors out there. Beal to Phoenix. Do you love it, like it, or you think it's okay? I don't think we have Geltz's sound.
No, we're losing sound here.
We're losing sound. Let's see. Do we have him now? Let's see. Get the adjustment. No.
I want to hear him sing.
I know. We got to get him.
What we should do is we should just give the answers for him.
Yes.
He's going to reboot. He's going
to reboot.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Get him back aboard. We'll figure it out. We'll get him going. But I like that idea that you have for MLB Network. It's interesting when you look at baseball now. It's a long MLB regular season. We're sitting here. It's late June. July 4th is only a couple weeks away. Amazingly enough, we're going to get into, NFL training camps next month, which is crazy. But you look at the baseball season, sometimes we've only got like 90, 91, 92 games left to go here in the MLB regular season. That's it.
Do you feel like you know who the best teams are?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, the Braves are there. The Cardinals are a massive disappointment. Even despite the Mets' victory last night in Houston, they've been a disappointment. The Rays, obviously.
All right, so you often ask our guests this question, so I'm going to ask you this question instead.
Right.
If you had to make your list of the teams you would feel comfortable saying can win the World Series, how many teams are on that list, you think? So you said the Braves.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go through it right now. I think the Rays can.
Yep.
I mean,
I going AL first.
Yeah, I think the Yankees could. I don't think the Orioles can. The Astros, even despite the fact that they're 39 and 34.
Yep.
I mean, Bochy's done an unbelievable job with the Rangers, but they've lost Jacob deGrom.
Yeah.
I don't know if Texas can. I don't think the Angels can. I like the fact that the Angels are telling people they're not trading Shohei Ohtani. Braves.
Yep.
I don't think the Mets can. And then out west, I mean, it's just.
I mean, the Giants are absolutely on fire. 8 wins in a row.
Yeah, they've been unbelievable.
But so you feel comfortable with 3 teams right now?
Probably.
Right? Isn't that crazy? Now, I mean, obviously, trade deadline, things can change a lot of stuff. Injuries can change a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I feel the most comfortable right now with the Atlanta Braves. To me, I think as good as the Rays have been, and they were mashing home runs early on in the season, the month of June, they're not anymore. To me, the Braves are the best team in baseball.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Wouldn't disagree. Let's try him again. I think he's with us, and that is Brian Geltzeiler, Sirius XM NBA Radio. Geltz, we got you?
You got me. Can you hear me?
There he is.
We got you loud and clear. Beautiful.
There we go. Keith sounded like the pirate from Dodgeball before.
He did.
Oh, my God. That's a good call. That is what I
absolutely.
Oh.
Yeah.
Geltz, Beal to Phoenix. You love it?
No, I hate it.
Why do you think I was going to say that?
Because it's so – all right. We have to explain to everybody what it means to be over the second apron in this new CBA. This year, it's not going to be bad. Eventually, it's going to mean you can't sign a guy in the buyout market. You can't take on any one dime of extra salary in a deal. So you won't be able to do that. You get no exceptions to be able to add players. And here's the other kicker, and this will kick in next year. If you're going to make a trade, you can't aggregate 2 players in the same trade. You can send 2 out. You can only bring 1 back to your team. It handcuffs you with everything you do. So then I'll ask you this next question. Why are you going to handcuff yourself to that extent? And I know they gave up very little here. They gave up nothing. But you really gave up what you gave up. And there's an opportunity cost here that goes beyond, not Bradley Beal, but who you could have gotten if you were willing to take on that kind of money. The guy makes $55 million. And if we're being frank about it, he was the 3rd best player on an under 500 Wizards team last year. Porzingis and Kuzma were both better. His game isn't aging well. He doesn't shoot threes well anymore. He's not the defensive player that he once was, and he struggles to stay healthy. Besides that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
Wow.
So the Knicks. All right, so let's transition. All right, so then you look at the Knicks who were, in on Beal. They fall short. What is Leon Rose? They don't have a first-round draft choice. They're looking to trying to improve the team. Is it where's Leon Rose and the Knicks? Where are they going to try and go here, whether it be before the NBA draft, after the NBA draft, draft night, to try and improve this Knicks team?
Well, all right, so let's start with the Knicks here. Bradley Beal wanted the Knicks.
Yeah.
The Knicks didn't want Bradley Beal.
Okay.
The Knicks are – here's a team, contrary to Phoenix, that's very conscious of what this second apron means. And for the Knicks, they would keep – listen, you could have thrown in 1 first-round pick and gotten Bradley Beal. If he wanted to come to your team, you had – and by the way, this will be the last no-trade clause we see in the NBA in this era. Okay, because essentially whoever Beal decided he wanted to go to had Washington over a barrel to make a deal. But the Knicks wouldn't do it because they didn't want to take on the $55 million, be up against a second apron, and not have the latitude to add to their team and make their team better. All of a sudden, all the assets that you have don't mean as much when you can't take on extra salary. So the Knicks were smart. So the Knicks are going to wait and see who is made available here on the star side. It doesn't look like it's going to be Jaylen Brown. Could it be Zach LaVine? Maybe. Zach LaVine is averaging here a good $13 to $15 million less a year than Bradley Beal is, and he's a better player. So if LaVine comes available, maybe it's not going to be the Donovan Mitchell type of package, but it's a package the Knicks certainly could get involved on. I think Karl Anthony Towns is going to be available. I think the Knicks will take a look there and see what happens there. Another guy I think the Knicks are very interested in, and they're going to have company in this, is an old friend, Kristaps Porzingis. But I think the Knicks believe that Porzingis, whether it was in a Randall deal or a Robinson deal, could come and be a major upgrade in their front court and help them spread the floor and be a fantastic offensive complement to Brunson. And is a guy whose rebounding improved last year, was 23-9, and is also a pretty good shot blocker and a pretty good defensive player when he wants to be. So there's a lot of options for the Knicks. Staying patient, watching the market shake out is a very smart move. They don't have a first-round pick on Thursday night, which is fine. They gave that up in the Josh Hart deal, which was a good trade. They thought they were going to have it in Dallas. Dallas tanked to keep it. The Knicks will play this smart, Mark. They're going to take their time, see what comes to them, but they're certainly not going to jump and throw everything to the middle of the table at the first star someone says is available.
What are you hearing about Zion? What do you think is going to happen?
So listen, I know David Griffin pretty well from the time that I work with him. I find it difficult to believe that David Griffin is going to trade a guy with Zion's upside when his value's at a low, and his value's at a low right now. So I know that Griff is hot on Scoot Henderson. I get that. But I think being hot on Scoot Henderson means that I'd rather trade CJ McCollum and a lot of my other young guys, Trey Murphy, Jackson Hayes, you can keep going, Dyson Daniels. Like, that's the kind of deal that I think Griff wants to make, and put Scoot Henderson with Zion and Brandon Ingram. I don't think he wants to trade Zion. And certainly if he's going to trade him, I don't think he wants to trade him now. We're hearing a lot of stories there about him not having a relationship with the organization, him not having much of a relationship with his teammates. And frankly, all of it's true. Listen, Zion lost a lot of guys last year where he was essentially cleared to come back and chose not to come back. His conditioning is garbage. He doesn't stay in shape. And that's a huge problem with the guys around him, because the Pelicans look at this not only from an organizational standpoint, but from an individual player standpoint. Like, when we had Zion healthy, we were the number one team in the West last year. Like, they have Denver Nugget upside with the talent that they have. They have to be able to keep Zion on the floor, but Zion doesn't do his part. And as much as you want to hang some of this on the Pelicans, a lot of this falls on Zion Williamson. He has to make the commitment to want to be that guy. I don't know how happy he is there. He took the money, he signed the contract. He's going to have to go play there. But again, it would be hard for me to believe that Griff punts on him at this stage. I kind of feel like, let him play well for 30 games. And then if somebody makes an interesting offer, then I think you may get Griff's attention. But that means that the ship will have sailed on Scoot Henderson.
All right. So, all right, we've gone through Zion. Now Dame Lillard in Portland. What happens with Lillard and the Blazers? Where do you think he ends up pre-draft, post-draft? Where do you think Dame Lillard's future lies, Brian?
Mark, I'm just waiting for everybody to stop being polite there. And what I mean is this. Dame doesn't want to be Dame loves the people of Portland. Those fans have been so good to him. He's enjoyed his time there. It's been great. He doesn't want to be the guy that asks out and asks away. And the Blazers, who would be much better off trading Damian Lillard, because they can bring back a king's ransom. This is not a Beal deal. This is not a Zach LaVine or Karl Anthony Towns deal. This is Damian freaking Lillard. They can bring back a haul for him. The Blazers can absolutely use him as a launching pad to a fast rebuild with what they have. They have Simons under contract right now. Granted, good offensive player, poor defensive player, undersized too. They have him under contract right now. Teams love Shadon Sharp. Anybody you talk to thinks Shadon Sharp's a star in the making. They have this number 3 overall pick. Then you look at what you can bring in for Damian Lillard, and you could have a really, really fast rebuild with this group. And to me, for Portland, what are you going to add to this team to make it that much better to get you out of the play-in tournament? Really? I mean, even if you traded number 3 for Zion Williamson, is he going to stay healthy enough to make you get out of the play-in tournament when you go keep Jeremy Grant? What's that going to do? And that's kind of my problem here with all of it. Portland doesn't want to tell Dame we're better off trading you because they don't think Dame deserves that. I respect that. Dame doesn't want to tell the Blazers, trade me. I want to go to a contender. And I respect that as well. However, it's better for both if they say goodbye to Dame. And I do think sometime between either now and Thursday or now and July 1st, both parties are going to sit down and say it's probably better for us to part ways. It just makes too much sense not to happen right now. Just waiting on somebody to step up and be willing to say it.
Do you think it's more important for it to happen before Thursday?
Not necessarily. And normally, Keith, that's a great question, Keith, by the way. And normally, I would say yes, it is, because we've seen historically in the NBA that the draft pick carries more weight than the player, because the draft pick offers choice that obviously the player doesn't offer. However, in this case scenario, the Blazers are in a unique position. It's going to be either Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson. There's a huge drop-off from 3 to 4. They're not going to be injecting one of the Thompson twins or Cam Whitmore into the 3. It's going to be none of that. If Charlotte takes Miller, it's Scoot Henderson. If Charlotte takes Henderson, it's Brandon Miller. So they can hold the pick through Thursday with the thought that, hey, someone would step up for this player as part of the package if we were going to move it to keep Dame, to keep Dame and add to it. So I think that this can, and then if you're going to trade Dame, well, heck, you already drafted that guy already. What's the difference? So I kind of feel like this can last into the first week of July. It doesn't have to be something that's done draft week.
Who do you think's better, Miller or Henderson?
Henderson. And listen, I think Miller can be a wonderful player in this league and has all of the physical attributes of being a guy that can be a big time forward. I worry a little bit about his motor. I worry a little bit about his work ethic. I know that we've heard nothing but good things about him. When it comes to that, he also got himself involved in a very ugly situation in Tuscaloosa. And so I have some concerns about Miller. I'm not 100% sold on Miller, but I'm going to tell you this. Everything that I've seen with Scoot Henderson is that he's a heck of a good young player, does need to improve his long-range shooting, but he's a really good mid-range shooter. And for a guard, listen, Chris Paul was never the greatest long-range shooter, made a heck of a living being a mid-range shooter. Not that I'm comparing Scoot Henderson to Chris Paul, but Everybody you talk to that sees Henderson in these workouts is completely awed by him. He is a unique athlete in terms of size, speed, strength, has great feel for the game, and is a really, really comfortable with the ball in the hands as a lead guard. I think Henderson is going to be a big-time star in the league. I can't say the same thing about Brandon Miller. I'd be much more comfortable, even if I'm Charlotte. Forget Terry Rozier, forget LaMelo Ball. You're not in a position where you can take a guy because it fits positionally better. Take the best player you can get. To me, that's a no-brainer. It's Scoot Henderson.
Scoot's already an accomplished actor as well. I don't know if you saw Shooting Stars, the LeBron movie. He played Romeo Travis. He was good in it.
I didn't see it, but I'll check it out.
Yeah,
because
all right. I forget. Are you a LeBron guy or not? I forget.
So here's my thing with LeBron. I love LeBron. I really do. The only thing that has chased me the wrong way over the years about LeBron is this lack of accountability for his poor personnel decisions. So LeBron, listen, LeBron pushed that Laker front office to go get Russell Westbrook and then refused to change anything about his game to accommodate Russell Westbrook and then blame them because they listened to him. But that's a pattern in LeBron's career. That's the part of LeBron that bothers me. LeBron, the player, fantastic. LeBron, the father, the family man, the philanthropist. He's done so many good things for so many people. It's hard for me ever to hate on LeBron. But LeBron, the front office executive, leaves a lot to be desired, which is going to really make it grab your popcorn when he finally buys a team, if it ends up being the Vegas team, and watch where all that goes, where the fur flies there, because who knows what the hell can happen there. That way he's not going to have to answer to anybody. He's going to be the boss himself.
My quick review just for you for the LeBron movie is the one thing I found interesting, knowing that LeBron had a very big role in making that. It's off of the book that was written. There were a few moments in there that LeBron did not come off like roses. And it was actually kind of nice to see that they showed him as a high school basketball player have a few issues sometimes. And it was good to see. I'm just saying.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
It wasn't, oh my God, LeBron is Mr. Perfect. It was cool.
Right. Well, let's face it, Keith, none of us are.
No, Moose is pretty close, but otherwise that's about it.
In any way, straight perform. Cat, Karl Anthony Towns, reports yesterday that he's from the New York City metro area, that they were looking for apartments in New York City. The relationship you've heard that between Thibodeau and Karl Anthony Towns has been mended since Thibodeau's days in Minnesota. What about Cat, his potential availability?
He's going to be available. Listen, they have to do something. The Cat Gobert experiment did not work. They're going to have to do something to add some more perimeter talent to this team. And the Knicks are an interesting fit there. They really are. The thing about Karl that I worry about is, you heard his comments on the Patrick Beverley podcast. I'm all for a guy being confident in himself, but let's be careful, dude. You never want to, how many playoff games have you won?
I'm going to change the NBA. Yeah.
Okay, that by the time I'm done, I'm gonna have change the game and all of that. Listen, dude, go win, go grind and get things done. Because the other thing I worry about with him is I just don't know about his competitiveness in tight spots. He just doesn't seem to dig deep all that much. He's very quick to blame things. Listen, he had a couple of great games in that Denver series. He was quick to blame the officiating when things didn't go well for his team. And I just kind of feel like for Towns, and I don't know that that's repairable. And I kind of feel like for Karl Anthony Towns, by the time he figures it out between his ears, the talent's going to start to wane. I really do. So I worry about his maturity. I worry about all those things. With that said, the talent is incredible. And if you're keeping Jalen Brunson and you're keeping RJ Barrett, one of the things I hear with a lot of these Knicks trade rumors is RJ Barrett's name is thrown around willy-nilly. After what we just saw from him in the playoffs, unless you are getting a sure thing, do not be in a hurry to trade RJ Barrett. You have enough cap fodder to send out with guaranteeing Rose's money and Fournier. You'll figure out how to make salaries work in these situations. Keep RJ Barrett. Listen, Brunson and Barrett to me are the two keepers there. And unless you're upgrading Robinson, he's another keeper there. That's the thing that scares me with the Knicks. I would not be in a hurry. Listen, if you're going to do a Towns deal where Barrett goes back to Minnesota, it's a lateral move. And that's what I think the Knicks have to be careful about. The great beauty of the Knicks, and let's not lose the beauty of the Knicks. The average age of the 9-man rotation was 24.7 years this year, and they made it to the second round of the playoffs. If you're going to go start trading guys, I'd rather see him trade Randall than Barrett. Yeah. I really would.
What did you make of John Morant's suspension?
listen, I think that we have to understand what the goal is here with John Morant, which was to provide something that resembled rock bottom to get him to try to turn things around. I feel bad for the kid. He's 23 years old. He's caught between two worlds. Ja, essentially, people that have been in his life, his entire life, and had his back and been loyal to him, their lifestyle doesn't serve Ja well as being a top-level NBA player at this stage. It just doesn't. Ja's got an image to uphold. He's got endorsements, and the guys that he hung out with, which are still awfully immature, are not serving him well. So Ja's got to cut ties or at least separate himself from a group of people that are not really having him act in a way that he needs to act in. And that's the ultimate issue. And I think also what was really disconcerting to Adam Silver is they sat down and met in March, and Ja was legitimately remorseful. But the actions don't indicate legitimately remorseful. And Adam Silver felt like he got hustled. So he wanted to send a message to Ja. You're going to sit down and BS me. This is what I am going to do back to you. Maybe this provides the loss of money. Because keep one thing in mind about the loss of money. So this is what, like, I think 7 to 10 million, something in that neighborhood.
7.6, I think.
7.6 million he loses here. But understand something. He wasn't voted onto an all-NBA team this year.
And
That
now he can't
cost
be
him
because he won't play enough games.
Now he can't be. So this all cost him a supermax, Keith.
Yeah.
Okay, the supermax over the life of the deal is $34 million. I mean, I'll tell you right now, as a voter, I didn't put him on an all-NBA team. He didn't play enough games, and I couldn't equate why he didn't play enough games to be equal to a guy, for example, like Steph Curry, who played less games but was injured. Okay, injuries is different than a guy that acted in a way that got him suspended. So, listen, I think that Adam did the best he could with this suspension, with the thought that, you know what, we got to send this guy a message right now, not only for the good of the league, but for the good of John Morant, because his potential is limitless. He could mean the world to the league. Listen, there's a little bit of a mini crisis in building American NBA stars, right? 4 best guys in the league right now, young up-and-comers: Jokic, Serbia; Giannis, Greece; Luka, Slovenia; Joel Embiid, Nigeria. Like, there's not American players here. John Morant is the American hope. So, Adam does this with him to try to say, hey, turn it around, because the hopes of a lot of young men are on you. And the example and the role model, all that stuff that John needs to have out there is what Adam wants him to focus on. Hopefully this is a suspension that will get Morant focused on that as well. And I kind of have a feeling that it will. One of the toughest things for Ja is, his dad is not necessarily the best influence either. And I don't judge parents, because we all know, guys, it's the hardest job in the world. So I'm not judging Team Morant. But I do think at a certain point in time, T's got to help get Ja pulling in the right direction here and pull him away from some of these guys. One guy in particular, one friend of his in particular, that always seems to be right next to Ja when Ja finds trouble. Because it's not just this incident and the other incident in the strip club in Glenwood, Colorado. There's a lot of other incidents that have built up, including one at an NBA arena in Indiana at the end of January, where there was a scope and a laser shined on Pacer security personnel coming out of a vehicle that John Morant was in. So there's that kind of, and that stuff the NBA cannot and will not have.
Brian Geltzeiler, Sirius XM NBA Radio. Brian, 10 seconds here. Yes or no? Will Wembanyama live up to expectations?
It's impossible for him to live up to expectations because they're through the roof. With that said, will he be a Hall of Fame player and likely an all-time great? I think he probably is. But the expectations have him being the greatest player ever, and I just don't know that we can expect him to live up to that.
Geltz, you're the best. We appreciate it. Thanks for cutting out some time for us today. Enjoy the off season, because we know you're going to be super busy, brother.
Always my pleasure, gentlemen. Always fun with the two of you. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you. Got it. Brian Geltzeiler from Sirius XM NBA Radio, and hopefully Wembanyama is. Keith,
I
what
hope
a blast.
so.
2 hours have flown by, man.
Oh,
We're out of time.
Went fast.
Absolutely.
Hey, feel better. I know you were playing under the weather today. Feel better.
We'll see you next Tuesday at 10 right here on the Better Sports Network.